This is the Wrestling Old Head. You have entered the portal of pro wrestling.
What the world is watching.
Even though we're a week out from AEW All In July the 12th at the Globe Life Field in Arlington, Texas, I'm going to do my predictions for the card thus far. So we are 8 matches in thus far. I can imagine there's probably going to be about 3 more matches that are going to be added from now until then at the very least. And we're looking at more than likely a 5.5-hour extravaganza that Tony Khan's going to put on. You got to imagine, this is his first big stadium show in the United States. You can look at Arthur Ashe Stadium. He ran a couple of shows there. That was a capacity of probably about 20,000 people, maybe a little bit over 20,000 people, but that's more of an arena for, or I apologize, it's more of a stadium for, Wimbledon, for tennis and whatnot. So Globe Life Field at least doubles Arthur Ashe in sheer size and mass, and more than likely capacity. You could probably fit 40 to 50,000 people in Globe Life Field. So this is going to be a big deal. So I'm expecting a lot of surprises. I'm expecting a lot of, he's going to probably try and fit the whole roster on here, but we'll get to that a little bit later. Where do we start? Let's start with the Hurt Syndicate, a.k.a. the Power Warriors, against Jet Speed, Kevin Knight, and Speedball Mike Bailey for the AEW World Tag Team Championships. Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin are in a division amongst themselves. This AEW Tag Team division is building itself back from almost being burned to embers, and they're trying to reinvent themselves. And I got to respect that. As far as them building tag teams around them, they thus far have yet to do that. And it's fine. Like, it takes time. I had imagined we would see teams like Swerve Strickland and Hangman Adam Page as the unlikely buddy cop duo, Lethal Weapon, that get together and go after the tag titles and win the tag titles. I actually felt like they would win those tag team titles. I also felt that they would pair, Wardlow and Alex Hammerstone. I thought they would pair those two up and have them go after the tag team titles. We have yet to see something like that. But just a tag team division of mostly heavyweights, so that then you can keep your, athletic, high-flying, spot fest, dazzling performers for the singles divisions. And in the heavyweight division, it's more the tag team division, So, for those that are looking for meat slapping meat monsters, you can get that in the tag division. I thought that would be a very clever way of breaking the genres down that AEW is so good at doing, which they give you a little bit of everything, and keeping them exclusively for the tag division I thought would have been a nice touch. We have yet to see that because Mike Bailey and Kevin Knight are anything but main event heavyweights. I apologize, not main. They're anything but heavyweights, right? And so they're running this story where the Hurt Syndicate keep beating them up, and they keep getting up. They get beat down, and they get back up. And so they're the underdogs, but they're the underdogs that don't have a quit in them. And, it's that whole 80s movie type of action, maybe like rom-com type of idea where, like Karate Kid, eventually they get up and they win. Are they going to win at All In? Nah. They're not going to win it All In. Hurt Syndicate are going to win this match. And I don't know where you're going to go from here. Like, I as I stated, Wardlow and Hammerstone, Swerve Strickland and Hangman Page, even Copeland and Christian, okay? Cope and Christian. I thought we would see more of that. I also felt like we would get more of a face pairing where they would be good guys with the Hurt Syndicate. That also went out the window. Since they've aligned with MJF, it seems like they had to pivot. Now, I'm not sure if this is related to maybe Cedric Alexander not signing with AEW and instead going with TNA. I don't know what the deal is with that. I don't know if they had plans of bringing in Cedric Alexander, and then they had to pivot. But whatever the reason is that we're getting a heel Hurt Syndicate and they're still sticking with MJF, I got to imagine that they're going in a different direction now. And because of that, they had to pivot and go the way of Hurt Syndicate against Jet Speed. I think it's going to be a fine match. As far as Jet Speed winning, I just don't see them being built up enough to where they present themselves as formidable challengers that have a chance of winning. I think it's kind of a no-brainer at this point that Hurt Syndicate's going to win. It's just be interesting on the other side of this to see where they go, because you got heel teams abound in AEW. You've got the Young Bucks. You've got Konosuke Takeshita and Kyle Fletcher. You've got FTR. These are all tag teams that can be good challengers for the tag team titles, but they're all heels. So I don't know how they go about that. Speaking of Kyle Fletcher, he's next up. He's going to be wrestling Adam Cole for the TNT Championship. Adam Cole, baby, he needs something. I mean, he needs a creative defibrillator to kind of just like jolt him into a big storyline. He had so much momentum coming into AEW. I mean, a part of one of the greatest endings of an AEW pay-per-view that I've seen to date, with Kenny Omega winning the main event. I believe he was wrestling Christian Cage, and then Adam Cole coming out looking like he's going to go face-to-face with Kenny Omega. The crowd is going berserk. Then they hug, and they all join forces. And then Bryan freaking Danielson comes out, and the crowd again loses its shit. And then from there, there was some promise with the duo of Cole and MJF, and that fizzled out. So, and you know the story from there, and he just hasn't been able to get his momentum back since then. And I don't know what they can do in order to really get that measure of momentum back for Adam Cole. Maybe a heel turn would be the thing for him, but he's kind of just swimming in circles, kind of in limbo. And with Kyle Fletcher has so much momentum since signing with Don Callis' group and working the program that he worked with Will Ospreay, and some of the great matches that he's had since then. I think this is Kyle Fletcher's match to lose, to be honest with you. I think he walks away with this as the winner and the new TNT champion. I think it does Kyle Fletcher great. I mean, they've built him up thus far to get to this point, and they've kind of hit a stall a little bit. I haven't seen him much on Dynamite. He's mostly been reserved for Collision. So I feel like because of that, the championship is going to help keep his momentum steady, and he won't do a little bit of a dip, right? I think you also see some potential animosity with Konosuke Takeshita. I see that looming a little bit. I mean, how cool would it be? I just had this vision of how cool it would be if Shinsuke Nakamura, if he were to not renew his contract with the WWE, if he were to go to AEW and work as a manager or even a tag partner for Konosuke Takeshita. Konosuke Takeshita will be a top face in AEW in the coming months, in my opinion. I think they've been building it with the tension between him and Okada, and the crowd is getting behind him. I remember when he first came out as a heel, he didn't have music, and now suddenly he's got music, and it's not like ominous music. It's like kind of badass. So I honestly feel like Takeshita will be in a situation where he becomes a crowd favorite. I think you're going to see handshakes with Kenny Omega, handshakes with Will Ospreay, and I think you can get him against Kyle Fletcher. You can have him work against Okada. You can get a lot of mileage out of him as a face. So, I digress though. I'm going with Kyle Fletcher to win against Adam Cole. Moving on, there's a tag team match here with the strangest stipulation that I think I've ever heard of. So if Ospreay and Strickland lose, they cannot challenge for the AEW World Championship separately for 1 year. So Swerve can't challenge for the World Championship, and Will Ospreay can't challenge for the World Championship. So they're going to beat each other's ass for like a whole year until they can get that shot at the World Championship, I assume. If the Young Bucks lose, they will be stripped of their executive vice president titles. Now, that doesn't mean that Strickland and Ospreay get them. They just kind of revert back to NA form, and Tony Khan can handle all of that. They would just be stripped of their executive titles. It's the Young Bucks against Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay. This is another match where I felt like there might have been a bit of a pivot, because I feel like it should have been Hangman and Swerve against the Young Bucks. I thought we were going in that direction. The way that Hangman was working with the Young Bucks and Swerve was kind of getting involved there, and there seemed to be a little bit of a mutual respect brewing between Hangman and Swerve. I felt that that was inevitable. I don't know if it was Darby Allin going to Mount Everest. I don't know what it could have. I'm not even going to go into the theories of what it could have been, but what I do know is that right now we've got this match, and I think it's going to be a great match. I think these guys can pull great matches out of their ass with blindfolds on. These guys can put on great matches. I have no doubt this is going to be a great match. As far as the stakes, Young Bucks losing their executive privileges, where do they go from there? Right? Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland losing their opportunity at the AEW World Championship? It does so much for them to build to. Will Ospreay is obviously going to win the AEW World Championship when they go back to Wembley Stadium. It just writes itself. I don't know another story arc more predictable than that story arc. I can't wait for it. I think it's a long time coming. Honestly, I felt like they should have done it a lot sooner, but we're going to get it in Wembley Stadium a year from now. So Will Ospreay can build it up. It can go the Cody Rhodes route, where he's going to finish his story, and Swerve can be involved in that because it was Will Ospreay who made that stupid stipulation and cost him his shot at the World Heavyweight Championship. So now we can get a more lethal and cerebral, or maybe a return of the lethal and cerebral Swerve involved in this. So I am going with the Young Bucks. I am also going so far as to say that we may see the return of Jack Perry. Keep your eyes on Jack Perry, who hasn't been seen for a year. I think this is an opportunity for him to make a return and get involved, to give the Young Bucks an opportunity to retain their EVP titles, and to keep their characters going, and to build that story going after that. So now you got Jack Perry and Swerve. You've got Jack Perry and Will Ospreay. I don't even think we've seen Jack Perry against Will Ospreay, so that would be a match I'm sure they would be looking to have as well. So yeah, I'm going to go with the Young Bucks in that one. For the women's gauntlet, this is a match for the future AEW Women's World Championship. Okay, here's my theory on this. Athena against Thunder Rosa is apparently happening on a Ring of Honor pay-per-view around the time of All In, but not at All In. Athena is from Texas. She is the longest reigning Ring of Honor Women's Champion in the history of the company. And she is trying to break so many records. She's going to be up there with Roman Reigns as the longest championship reign in wrestling of this generation, rather. It's not a Bruno Sammartino run by any means, but it is up there with one of the longest of this generation. She's going for that, either to tie it or to break it, okay? Now, you've got this gauntlet, and looking at the women's roster, aside from someone like Megan Bayne, who they kind of like lulled a little bit and kind of stuffed her with Penelope Ford, and they're feuding with TJ over on Collision. Aside from Megan Bayne and maybe Tekla, who's been also stalled because of Jamie Hayter's injury, if Jamie Hayter were to return, I would say Jamie Hayter would be the odds-on favorite, just because I love Jamie Hayter and I think she's a phenomenal wrestler, and I think she deserves her story to finish as well. Aside from all of that I just threw at you, I am actually going to go with Athena here. I think it makes the most sense. I think she gets her big moment. This is something that, she has earned, obviously, by carrying the Ring of Honor Women's Championship division on her back. she deserves this big moment in her hometown by winning the gauntlet and going after the champion. Who the champion will be, stick around and find out, because you're going to be shocked to hear the answer on that. But as far as that winning of the gauntlet, I don't really know who's in the gauntlet right now. I believe Chris Statlander is the only one that has been official to be as the first participant in this gauntlet match. So, as they add more superstars, it might start to become more clear. But for now, just throwing it out there, I would suspect that they would put Athena in this thing, and I'm going with her to win. In the men's casino gauntlet match for the future AEW World Championship, I think you got Mark Briscoe and MJF thus far, and I think you're going to have a few more coming in there that are going to be guaranteed. I would look for, maybe Samoa Joe. I would look for Nick Wayne, maybe Christian Cage as well. I would look for guys like that to be involved. But, a lot of people are going with MJF to be the odds-on favorite to win this. And they would be absolutely on point to say that MJF would get this. I think he deserves it. I think this is his chance. I think he's kind of they've been trying to keep him busy without putting him in the world title situation for a while now, and I think it's going to be inevitable that they're going to have to allow him to break through and get a championship opportunity again. But I don't know if getting a championship opportunity, say Hangman Page, Adam Page wins, I don't know if the first challenger for Hangman Adam Page should be MJF. I just don't think that's the right move there, because you don't want to have MJF lose and you don't want to have MJF win, because if MJF were to win, I mean, that's another title reign for Hangman Adam Page that is, unceremoniously cut short, I guess, for lack of a better term, and also just not as dynamic as it should be, pun intended. So I'm going to go with Darby Allin here to win this casino gauntlet, because I don't think MJF winning the gauntlet, I don't think it's his time right now. I think you can still buy time, and he's working with the Hurt Syndicate, so he's kind of, he's busy. I think eventually we do get Bobby Lashley against MJF, and so while he's working on building up this rivalry with the Hurt Syndicate, I think you can get Darby Allin into this thing. He can make his triumphant return after climbing Mount Everest and get the shot at the AEW World Championship that he had taken from him because of Jon Moxley a long time ago. And also, last time we saw Darby Allin, he was getting thrown down a flight of stairs from the Death Riders. So I think Darby Allin showing up and winning this gauntlet is pretty much a given at this point, in my opinion. But I got to go with Darby Allin. For the unification of the AEW Continental and International Championships into the inaugural AEW Unified Championship, Kazuchika Okada, Continental Champion, goes against Kenny Omega, International Champion. This match, long awaited in the United States. We've gotten this match a handful of times in Japan, and this is one of the most anticipated matches since Okada has signed with AEW in AEW in a long time. Is this going to be Okada's coming out party? Is this going to be an opportunity for us to see the Okada of old? Is he going to put his work boots on and give that classic match feel that he had with Kenny Omega so many times before in Japan? That remains to be seen. With a lot of hype going into this match, I expect this match to go 44 minutes at the very least. You understand me? This match is going to go 44 minutes at the very least. Coming out of this, I think you are going to see the Unified Championship potentially be elevated over the TNT Championship, because for a while the TNT Championship was that second tier title. It was a big deal. I think now that title's been relegated to like Collision, for instance. I mean, you got Adam Cole with the championship. You're gonna have Kyle Fletcher after that. But as far as like prestige, I think with a guy like Kenny Omega beating Okada, I think Kenny Omega is gonna keep relevance with that Unified Championship. It's going to be like the old WCW International World Championship back in the 90s, where it was like, two world champions, two main event world champions holding two different world titles. I think it's going to kind of give off that feel, And so with Kenny Omega, I'm predicting him to come away victorious with this. I think you're going to get the feel-good moment, him raising two championships, or maybe just the single Unified Championship in the air to get that big fight big moment feel. I think you might get a handshake between Okada and Omega, but I don't think you've seen the last of Omega and Okada, and I think you might see a rematch as early as Forbidden Door. So I think you are going to get a definitive win here, a decisive win from Kenny Omega, but I do think that it leaves the door open for a potential second match at Forbidden Door. Timeless Toni Storm and Mercedes Moné battle for the AEW Women's World Championship. I swore I didn't want this video to be long, but I went on a little bit of a rant, so I'm going to make this quick. A lot of people, myself included, I feel like this is Toni Storm's match to win. She needs to win this match. This is a match where it can establish her as a big deal, as the top of the AEW women's division, where she belongs, because she has been crushing it for years. It'll also shove that in the face of Blake Monroe, formerly Mariah May, that Toni Storm gets this big moment at All In, where at last year's in Wembley Stadium, if you remember, Toni Storm lost to Mariah May. So would you go 2 All-Ins in a row having Toni Storm lose? I don't think so. However, Mercedes Moné and Athena had a match previously. So, and Mercedes Moné came out on top. It was in a tournament, first round. So with that said, if Athena does win the gauntlet, then I gotta say Mercedes Moné is gonna win the AEW Women's Championship. But my official prediction, I just had to put that in as an asterisk, but my first prediction, my official prediction, is gonna be that Toni Storm beats Mercedes Moné, because she has to. Mercedes Moné has so many other titles. Toni Storm has one, and it's the one that counts. Mercedes Moné can always defend the TBS championship. I mean, come on, we really don't need another situation where TBS champion and the world champion is under Mercedes Moné, and then Mercedes Moné gives away the TBS championship, and then you got another fucking tournament. We don't need another tournament, okay? We don't need another tournament, all right? Okay? We don't. So don't do this, please. Let Toni Storm have her moment where she becomes timeless by being the first person to beat Mercedes Moné in AEW. She wins the championship. You can always run that match back and have Mercedes Moné win. You can always run that back and have several matches down the line, down the pipeline for Mercedes Moné and Toni Storm. Do not give Toni Storm a situation where she loses 2 times in a row at the biggest event in AEW. So I'm going to go with Toni Storm. And now for the main event, Jon Moxley against Hangman Adam Page. I think, they kind of misunderstood the plot device of Marina Shafir. I figured they would have waited until All In for that buckshot lariat. I think it would have been an amazing moment, but they had to pull the trigger and take care of that on Dynamite. I'm not mad at that. I know a lot of people are, talking about the misogynistic aspects of that spot. I don't think it was that bad. I mean, he didn't coal cocker. You know what I mean? I'm from an era, and when ECW, Tommy Dreamer would pile drive Beulah McGillicuddy or Francine. I'm from that era where Scott Steiner would hit the Steiner recliner on Stacy Keibler. So worse things have happened for sure. And she had it coming. There was a nice build-up, but I would have liked to see that in this match. I think this match has all the opportunity to be their version of Cody Rhodes and Roman Reigns. And I'm sure a lot of AEW fans do not want to hear me say that, but this is just the way it is. You've got an opportunity there for, every member of the Death Riders to show up, including maybe a return of Pac. You also have an opportunity to finish the story with Darby Allin coming out, Sting coming out, Copeland coming out, Bryan Danielson coming out. I mean, you can have like a melee. You know what I mean? It can be amazing, right? And then give Hangman Adam Page the win in Texas, hoisted above, everybody, and gets his moment. I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't. I really don't. I think they want us to believe it's gonna happen, and that's gonna draw a lot of emotion. I think it's gonna piss people off when they find out he's not. So I'm gonna go with Jon Moxley. I think they are dead set on finishing the story with Darby Allin here. I think that's the real story. I think the last we seen of Darby Allin, he was like, foot stomped and thrown down a flight of stairs. Jon Moxley took his opportunity for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship away from him and said he's not ready. Never forget that. That is a interesting plot device there. Said Darby Allin wasn't ready. So Darby Allin, which I'm sure he has footage, went and climbed Mount Everest. He is coming down from that mountain to win the AEW World Heavyweight Championship. End of story. Point blank, period. He is winning. So I got Jon Moxley winning here. People are going to be fucking infuriated. But if you give Tony Storm the win, if you give Kenny Omega the win, I mean, it's enough to where the crowd can feel at least they got a satisfying conclusion to 2 of the 3 big matches that they were hoping to see. Jon Moxley wins, defends against Darby Allin. Darby Allin is going to win. Point blank, period. End of story. That's where I'm going. Guys, what do you think is going to happen at AEW All In? What are your predictions for any matches that are going to be added later on? I want you guys to let me know. Thanks for sticking around this long. This ended up being a special AEW All In predictions show. I didn't know it was going to go this long, but I did have a lot to say, and I appreciate you all for listening and sticking around. If you can, if you feel so inclined, it is absolutely free. It costs you nothing. Just hit the thumbs up. And it keeps the algorithm going so more people can hear me rant about professional wrestling. And then hopefully I can start building up this fan base and we can all watch wrestling and talk about wrestling together, because that's what I love about professional wrestling, is the community and people talking about creative ideas and just bouncing all this information off of one another. It's a passion of mine. It's going to be a passion of mine until the day I die. It's been a passion of mine since I was 3 years old. It's one of my fondest memories. One of my first memories as well is professional wrestling. So you guys, thank you so much for listening. And I hope to see you in the next one. Stay tuned for more.